right? Does not to defend Idul Adha sacrifice, something in the past, meaning before I started speaking, right? But must have a reason these things occurred, right? Must have had a reason these things occurred, right? So I've been questioning these things like why, right? Because there's a verse in the Quran that speaks about your piety is what reaches Allah. I used to look up this thing before this event occurred. I used to look up phrases because remember I was not allowed to really read the Quran in full and all that. So I used to look up like vegetarian Islam, and then I came across that verse online before I actually read the Quran. And it was like, well, your piety is what reaches Allah, not the meat or the blood or anything like that, right? And I just be questioning all now, right? So why it is that all of them Idul Adha sacrifices had taken place, right? Why Idul Adha, right? In that way. Why celebrate that festival in that way now? And the only conclusion, because I know for a fact that reincarnation used to exist, even if it didn't, if this is our last life, right? I know for a fact that reincarnation existed. We were here before. That's what I mean. So I'm led to believe that is our last life, right? And reincarnation existed, right? Meaning that this is our last life, and we are returning. All of us are returning back to God or back to death, and never to return or cycle back up on the earth again, right? So it's a final goodbye kind of winner, right? So, but the topic is on Idul Adha sacrifice, right? And why that was a thing. So, if reincarnation is a fact, right, or has been a fact, right, it would have mean that those animals were probably like human beings who did so much wrong. This is the conclusion I come to, right? Maybe it's making myself feel better, maybe not, right? But the conclusion I come to was that maybe as animals that people are reincarnated into animals. Some human beings were so terrible in the previous life that actually devolved to cows or something like a lower life form, right? And then they get sacrificed. Like that's the only sensible conclusion I could come up with regard to that situation, because this celebration doesn't make sense in the way that it is normally be practiced, right? So anything that doesn't make sense, right, to me, I just try to find a reason back in why people is do the things that they do, right? So in culture and so on, religion, right? So now your way of praying, right? I understand them thing has scientific understanding behind it, and the prostration and that, right? But something like the Idul Adha sacrifice, right? Um, bloodshed, like international bloodshed, right? And when I try to understand this reality now and asking God, well, like why these things is so, why it came to be like this. Apart from what you were saying, well, you're killing the animal in a particular way that causing less harm to it, and that and that the food is given as charity. My argument is you could give other food, right, and other forms of meat like seafood and stuff, right. You could give those things really, right, and animals for the time being that is lesser in pain, right. But like a cow, right, but a cow is a big animal, right? And I just wonder like why because like every Idul Adha has been a painful in the past. It's just been like a real painful experience for me now, right? Every year when I know this festival coming up, right? It's been like a painful experience because everybody know, well, you all know, well, I went to Ashdown one, right? So I had to like deal with that, right? And then, well, generally, and then I grew up in a Hindu home, right? So the cow is a sacred animal in Hinduism. Not we never worship a cow or anything like that. But in terms of the cow is considered sacred because it produce milk, and milk is sustain human beings. Milk is one of the things that sustains human beings, right? So it's sacred because it's an animal that gives, right, without it having to go through any big set of pain, right? Meaning, I'm not talking about industry cows. Talking about say if you're rearing a cow at home, right, and you milk the cow and you get milk to drink and so on, or small scale farming or something, not industry cow farming and that kind of thing, cattle farming, right? Um, so I what I my really intention with this conversation is really to stop this mass industry farming of animals, right? Because there's the industry farming of animals that has really caused the massive pain, massive international, a universal cry, right? Now I watch them videos, something with them animals, right? long time now, I saw watch something, right? And it's like an international cry. It's actually see the animals crying in those types of settings. Right? Where that kind of rearing is going, because it is be that you are pumping up these animals with chemicals, right? And unnaturally breeding. Right? Unnatural breeding of the animals for the purpose of reproducing them unnaturally or quicker than they should be reproducing. Right? Unnaturally for the purpose of mass production and consumption. Right? So that's a problem. Right? That's a problem. So this farming thing supposed to be a personal or a lower scale event, right? It's not supposed to be such a large industrial thing, because that's what's causing the hurt, and it have energies that is be feeding off of this hurt, and I hate that, right? It have energies that is be feeding off of the hurt, right? Because you want money, right? Because business is business and you want money, because it is an industry. Remember, animal rearing to that level, right? Is an industry. And it have energies in the world, evil energies that thrive upon that bloodshed. And I personally don't like to think anybody like working in that environment. Right? I personally don't like, I do not like to think, right, that anybody like actually working in that slaughtering business. Right? So what, and this is go back to transference of karma too, right? And this is why I here to really stop, right? Stop the dark energies, evil energies from transferring their karma. Is, hey, you as the owner, right, of a massive industry, right? Cattle rearing and cattle slaughtering industry all over the world, America, England, wherever all it is do it from, right? Massive for the purpose of business, right? And you doing that, but you not killing them yourself. You're hiring one set of people to get them people their karma, to take on your karma, right? That's real scary, dog, right? And that's why I want people to wake up to this and understand this principle, right? You kill and you slaughter the animal, you bloodshed the animal. You are taking on the karma of the person who owns that industry, and that need to stop. That need to stop. Because you know what, let me explain something there. The person who making all the money and the profits from that industry, you know what they could do to remove the misdeeds? Right? Donate the money. And they're free of the karma because they have the money to donate. That is in Islam how it is work. Who get the karma, right? For the stabbing of the animal, for the slaughtering of the animal, for seeing the blood, for getting that energy, absorbing that karma. Right? This is what people don't understand. This is what transfer, and this is why religion, it end up just being an elitist thing. All religion, right? This end up being a elitist thing. And it's not only religion, it's the way that the universe is function, which is what, and this is why this thing is so scary, because people who know this, which is law, right? Which is law, the way that the universe is function, this is how it is used this, right? To shit on everybody else. This is how, and I this video needs to go viral, because it is because I see the people who run on this thing, this show, right? They will allow this video to go viral, because this is the point, because this is what benefiting them. You have the knowledge that this is how the world is work, right? You know this is how the world is work, but you're still doing it, right? You're still choosing to harm people. You're still choosing to transfer your karma to people. And I have a point where, hey, God could choose somebody and God chose me to stop this from happening. To get everybody out of the industry who does be doing that, who does be slaughtering those animals. You sit them down, right, and talk to the owners themselves. Talk to you all who just want to be transferring the karma of all yourself onto other workers. Right? You're hiring workers to do mass wrong deeds. Killing on a daily. Right? And that had at some point that had to stop, because you know what, all you're making profits, right, over people's head, right, and they get the karma for it, and all your hands clean off blood, and all you had to do was donate some money, right, to clear your misdeeds. It have a point when God will say, no, money don't even matter. Money don't even matter now, because you know what, the money that you're using, right, to clear all your karma, right, that have a particular energy attached to it too. Right, the money that's being used to clear your misdeeds, or what you think, clearing your misdeeds, it have an energy or energetic signature attached to that as well, which is evil. Right? So it have a time when God will say, hey, no, even this religion or that aspect of this religion, right, it's not working no more and it's flawed. Because it is a twisting of the law of the universe. Right? So saying that, oh, because you're rich, you can take XYZ, how much of our money and donate it. Right? Saying that you can take X amount of money, right, and donate it. Right? To save yourself is wrong. Because what about the people who don't have money to do the same thing? Right? What about the people who don't have money to do the same thing? So even these scriptures, right? And I don't want to go so far as to say the Quran is twisting the law, because the Quran is teaching the law too, but the way that people interpret the Quran, right? Or the people or how people interpret others teaching the Quran, or how others bring it across. You need to bring it across in a way that telling people, hey, the money that you have, right, is not always going to be clearing your misdeeds. Because that would mean that Islam is an elitist religion, or elitism itself is a religion. That is what that means. That means that elitism is a religion and class is a religion. And God will function in that way. Right? So the upper class now, or the people who run in these dirty industries, right, they can simply say, hey, let me take my money and donate it here, there, and other, my hands clean. Right? Well, what about the people you hiring to commit mass murder on a daily to animals? For the purpose of profit, your profit, that is dirty money then. It becomes dirty money. So the money carries a signature of evil. When it was emerging from that kind of industry, and when they're using it and using people like that. Right? So that's why I advocated, right, for that farming thing to be taking place at a lower level, right, a smaller scale, not at an industry level, right, where you're unnaturally breeding animals quick, right, to reproduce and then to produce meat and so on. But anyhow, we're really talking about Islam, the Eid al-Adha thing, and what I really think from before 2022, right, when this thing happened to me, this awakening, right, from prior to that, right, when I have the Eid al-Adha sacrifice, the animals that was killed within Islam, I'm talking about, right, within Islam. Because killing animals, we think you're doing not good, right, meaning the intention was good. Right? You're killing mass animals for the purpose of profit. You have ill intention, to be honest, right? And you need to change, right? But in Islam, for example, all right, you believe in your religion and you're thinking you're doing not good, right? So God give you that, all right. You're within your religion, you're thinking this is a good. You believe in your heart this is a good, because you're distributing, you're sharing, you're killing the cow, right? You're distributing the food. I'm talking about 2022 going backwards, right? Right? You're distributing the food, you're thinking you're doing not good, right? You're believing in God, you're believing in Allah, right? What I believe these animals were is probably people who did tremendous wrong in the previous life, and they take incarnation as a cow, right, into this life, and then they end up getting slaughtered. Right? That's the point I want to make at the beginning, right? That's what I think that those animals were. Because they came back in a way, right, in an animal form, but they came back, there was humans, right? They had the highest intelligence, right? So you wasn't exactly born back in a setting like, say, a profit organization to get that kind of karma, like what those cows on there again, right? But you come back in a sense that, hey, you're being sacrificed for God in that thinking, in that mind frame, right? Because you already had the highest form of intelligence already, right? So you descend as a cow, and you descend as a cow to be slaughtered within religion, right? So that's how I imagine. I believe that to be, right? Because he was already human, but he probably did something so bad in the last life that he came back, right? To be that sacrifice, right? That mass, amongst one of those mass animals as mass slaughtering events for Eid al-Adha, right? And that's how I can make sense of that. Right? But now that we're not going to have no more reincarnations, right? And humans on Earth already at a level, at the highest intelligence, and we're not going to have any more reincarnations on Earth, right? Then I would assume that every life form gonna be living, right? So all life form, animals, people, insects, everything, plants dying, right? Because everything reach its point, whether it's transmigration is take place, reincarnation into animals or plants, right? Everything completed, right? Everything completed, meaning life come to a full circle, right? And everything will be leaving now, right? Because everything reached completion, right? So that's how I imagine that to be, right? The animals who be in thing and those kind of um, situations now are the profit organizations. Now, this is what we calling on people to speak about it, because speaking is what going to affect that them organizations and cause people to change, right? Because that is what, and that is where the topic of karma coming in terms of karma as you doing good deeds henceforth from now. Like from the time you get this knowledge, or you know this knowledge, in fact, those who run these industries, all they know this knowledge, right? So from the time early, it hit early that, hey, I really doing a wrong thing, right? You need to cut back on it, right? And that is where because you're gonna keep getting negative karma and go and making it known, right? That you'll be getting negative karma, right? Because that karmic transference thing is going to stop by the next 2 months, right? By July this year, right? Karmic transference, meaning transferring earlier whatever negative karma that you have, and you transfer it into other human being because you have the knowledge to do so, you're using occult knowledge for evil, right? That's going to stop, right? By the next 2 months, or 2.5 months or so, right? July, right? So people who run in those huge businesses, killing animals, slaughtering animals for profit without a care, and transferring that karma onto the workers and so on, right? All of that is going to have to stop, right? Because they reach a point in the universe where God and the animals, right, crying out. The animals is literally say, I'm crying, right? There's be crying, right? People is be hurting within those industries. Animals is be crying out. I just be hearing the cries of the animals within those industries. I just be feeling the pain when I watch them videos. Sometimes it's can't even stomach. People is can't stomach to watch them videos, right? People is be eating meat on a daily, right? They doesn't want to watch it because they doesn't want to accept, hey, this is where your meat coming from, right? Um, but anyhow, right? This thing need to stop, right? So this is where it karma come into play now, where you have to start doing good deeds. The people who run in that damn industry, right? Because you spend a lifetime in a dirty industry, and you spend a lifetime managing a dirty industry, right? And that is why you need to change. All you need on top of it, right? People who run in them thing, right? I don't know who run it, America, England, right? Wherever in the world that will be running them thing for profit, right? All you need to stop it, right? Or do something about it, because I don't know, right? For me, I say and stop it, right? Because here what? Because the karmic transference is be reaching down all to me. And trust me, I ain't gonna be taking. That's one thing me ain't taking on nobody karma for. You can't get me to take on that karma for all you running an animal slaughtering business for mass profit. Hey, that's one thing I will never take karma for. I will never share in that burden for. So all you're going to need to stop that, right? Because all you're going to be, you will die, basically. If you don't get sick, you will die something, right? Or your family members or everybody, your workers or whatever it is, right? But all you need to stop, right? But I try to stop the workers from taking on all their karma, whoever running these things, right? Because it's not fair. So they really had to leave that job too, right? They really had to exit them industries, because you're taking on that kind of energy, right? That you're taking on when all of that mass animals being slaughtered, and that coming into you as a human being, you working in that environment, not your boss. Your boss not running, not being inside it. You being inside it, right? So this is just that, right? Um. So I don't know what kind of karma those animals would have had to have gone through, right? Maybe some evil human being as well there was in last life, but um that saying that is part of what I was saying. Oh, remember I was saying karma is not saying that, oh, that just somebody karma. It have oh, that just the animal karma, right? It have a point where God is saying, that was 2022, when God was like, hey, well, you can't say that no more, because karma is your opportunity to do good. Karma is not saying that is the animal karma to die and to be slaughtered like that. Karma is actually your individual action and decision to do good. That's what karma is, right? So This is a cry out, right, to the people who run in the industry, right, to start to act differently and do differently, right, because the world is changing, right? The world is changing, and we're in a period of what Saturn, right, karma, the impacts of Saturn and the impacts of karma, right, the energy influences, right, the planetary effects, right? Because trust me, I know that's an evil industry, right? I'm gonna watch a video after this, right? With that because I just watch it from time to time. As Carolee, so I just be in pain every time I watch it. But from time to time, I just take in one or two, right? Just to remind myself about what it might be like to be one of those animals in that situation. But I really do like to watch it. Like nobody like to watch those things, right? But I know I'm vegetarian, so I know, well, I don't really have to watch that to tell myself anything now because I know, right, what is be going on in those industries, right? So, anyhow, right, if slaughterhouses are glass walls, everybody would be vegetarian here. Paul McCartney, right? Yeah, so that's, I just always say that too, right? I agree, that one quote I agree with 100%, right? And no change in our view of mine, right? If everybody see, right, how animals is being slaughtered, right, you would turn to a vegetarian. If that's what, if you're walking on the road and it's at glass, every slaughterhouse was a glass, was glass, made of glass, right? And you're seeing how those animals being killed, right? You would ease up on eating meat or stop eventually, right? So yeah. All right. Have a blessed evening, everybody.